Hello there, fellow zombie slayers. My name is Stanley557. As Call of Duty Zombies has continued on, we are fast approaching the mode's 17th anniversary. As we know, COD Zombies is a rather confusing, convoluted, and all-around exhausting story to truly understand. How does Classified fit into both Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 4? What was the true purpose of the children in Black Ops 3? And what the heck is the deal with the Dark Aether after the events of Totaldark? Questions like these and more are what I'm here to answer today. But before we begin, thank you to everyone who left an inquiry. If I didn't get to yours or you had one that you wanted answered, please leave them in the comments below. But with that said, let's get started. To preface, not everything in Zombies has a complete answer. Jason Mundell and Jimmy Zielinski love theory crafting and letting people fill in some of the puzzle pieces themselves. So I will present as many facts as I can, but I will let you know when my own personal answers rear their head and where there seemingly isn't any concrete answer. I'll start out with an easy one, so that all of you can get an idea for the format of this video. Coming from undeadegypt from Twitter, he asked, "One thing I never really got was, why is there two versions of the crew? Like why Primus and Ultimus exist?" Thank you for your question, undeadegypt. So for context, the original crew we follow throughout World at War and Black Ops 1 are referred to as the Ultimus Crew, and the characters introduced in Origins and the ones we play as throughout BO3 being referred to as the Primus Crew. For a long time, it was confusing how these two groups existed, and for a while, many assumed Primus simply replaced their Ultimus counterparts. This was further backed up by Black Ops 3, where the game's main narrative seemingly revolved around killing these so-called beloved characters. But it is only in Black Ops 4 where these two groups meet, and the answer is finally revealed in Totaldark, the final map in the original Aether storyline. Jebediah Brown, the creator of the Pack-a-Punch, was requested to create a mechanism known as the Agarthan device, an ancient relic that could be used as a genie in a bottle to control all of existence. Ricktophens was given the schematics to create this device after Group 935 returned from exploring the town of Purgatory Point in Angola, and was interested in the process of creating the elemental shard. He planned to use it as a backup plan should Maxis betray him. Using the Vril vessel created by Jebediah, he was able to siphon his soul and the souls of the original three test subjects, Tank Dempsey, Takeo Misaki, and Nikolai Belinsky. When a piece of Element 115 was infused with this energy, it bound their souls to the Aether forever, thus making these four individuals as important to the world as matter itself, tying them together across all dimensions.
Today also marks a great success for one of my side projects. Using a processed rock of element 115 and the Vril vessel, I was able to successfully siphon a piece of the souls from our three specimens and inject them into the rock. Without access to a fourth individual, I used part of my own essence. Much to my surprise, the rock grew and transformed, creating a beautiful shard of glass made purely from element 115 and parts from 4 human souls.
Eventually, the shard was retrieved by Group 935, where it was sent to Division 9. From Division 9 after World War II, it was recovered by the Americans, with specifically Cornelius Purnell becoming obsessed with it. The shard was used to power Camp Edward until it was requested by the Department of Defense to be used in a Broken Arrow facility in China. Before it could be taken, Purnell split the shard in two. And while it is never explicitly stated, this event right here is what I believe created Primus, splitting the souls of Ricktophen, Dempsey, Takeo, and Nikolai forever.
I've not confirmed it, but I suspect they've planted spies in our ranks. Last month, out of the blue, they forced me to give up the elemental shard, as if they knew what we were up to.
I'm sorry to hear that, sir.
Oh, that's all right. DOD don't know it, but I managed to break the shard in two. Kept half so we can continue our work. We need to stay on our toes. I need people I can trust.
They are still bound to the Aether, but they are now two parts of one person. The Ultimus and Primus, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And in the end, both pieces of the shard are collected, with both halves being destroyed, one in the comics by Victus, and the other half by Nikolai when utilizing the Agarthan device. See? What an easy question! The next question comes from Hawkman Young 4, who asked, "Where did Peter go after Alpha Omega?" And the answer is, we literally have no idea. He has not been referenced since, and most likely will never get a conclusion.
Living, fighting, dying, finding out that death's not the end. Thanks to you, my journey continues. I have some unfinished business to attend to. I'll never forget what you did for me.
Oh, that was beautiful. You proved you understand the fifth core value. Report to operations. You know the drill.
For question 3, we have ZeroStark24, who asked, so if I remember correctly, Classified story basically after Shang, Dempsey fucked up and they ended up on 5 instead of Moon. Does that mean that this happened during the original Black Ops 1 story too? Yes, it does. Classified specifically takes place 2 days before the events of 5. This happens in every timeline, and the outcome of Ultimus arriving here is pretty inconsequential to the grand scheme of things, and is mostly here to further bridge the gap between Shang and Moon, with Classified featuring a direct teleporter to Groom Lake. The primary existence of Classified's outbreak is also important because it showcases how the Pentagon first came under siege by the undead threat, the necessity for the meeting between JFK and Fidel Castro beyond them attempting to capture Griffith Station, and the eventual capture of Yuri during the second Pentagon outbreak, which leads into further events that play out during Alpha Omega. Fun fact, 2 versions of Ultimus exist on this map. When you play Classified, you are playing as the pre-Moon Ultimus. In the map's outro cutscene, you see the post-Moon Ultimus as they are rescued by Primus leading up to the events of Alpha Omega. Double fun fact, Classified is a prequel to Moon, 5, and Alpha Omega, and a sequel to Moon, Shang, and Blood of the Dead. Wrap your head around that one.
Oh my God! It appears the Pentagon has been breached.
Zombies. Gentlemen, at times like these, our capacity to retaliate must be, and has to be massive, to deter all forms of aggression.
Question 4 comes from GForceGordon, who asks, do we know exactly why the Chronorium changed in BO4? Also, why did Great War Primus Ricktophen choose Nikolai as the new leader? Yes, we do. For the first question, the Chronorium changes, and the broken cycle is only broken when Weasel defeats the mobsters during Mob of the Dead. In nearly every single timeline, the mobsters overpower him and the cycle begins anew. But only when Weasel wins is the cycle broken. This causes Primus to be late, for the Chronorium to change, and the broken cycle to begin. And thus the Aether multiverse is set to be destroyed. This is backed up by plain text in Mob of the Dead, stating whether or not the cycle continues or is broken, depending on how you conclude Mob of the Dead. This ties the events of the battle directly into the story. Hey, this is Editing Stanley right now, and apparently while reading through TOG radios, they also mentioned that during the Great War, another big factor, so maybe the factor of Mob that I was completely wrong, another big factor was Ricktofen realizing that he's trapped in the cycle, and that he basically asked Pablo to help him break the cycle. I still believe that it's Weasel that causes Ricktofen to want to break the cycle, but yeah, so apparently part of what's breaking the cycle is also Ricktofen wanting to leave the Great War. He leaves Pablo to die. Pablo defends him while he powers up the machine, and then he leaves to go to Blood of the Dead. So that is part of breaking the cycle, but I still believe that Weasel breaking the cycle in Mob of the Dead is what caused it. I'll play the radio now.
Being sent just to witness what happened. But it is I who helps the Doctor break his cycle. Near the end of the Great War, when all hope is nearly lost, I protect him while he activates a device, a teleportation mechanism. I hold back the undead as he powers it up. I give him the moment he needs to escape his fate. I ask him, where will you go? He says, there is a prison I must travel to. Hopefully, I can intercept our friends before it is too late.
As for the second question, it is stated by Ricktofen, but better explained in Classified. As stated in Classified, they can only watch you if you gift them your soul. And at this point in the story, Ricktofen, Dempsey, and Takio's eternal souls have been captured, and while Dempsey and Takio's souls aren't gifted to Monty yet, they have been claimed in the summoning key, keeping them under Monty and the Shadowman's influence. It is only Nikolai who wields his eternal soul. With it, his actions and reading the Chronorium can't be tracked by Monty. They could be anywhere in the multiverse, anytime, any place, any part of existence. This allows him to enact his plan and destroy the multiverse once and for all.
Not be necessary, Nikolai. The future has changed.
The Chronorium.
Read it. Learn of your true calling. You must keep your sword. If It will be needed to defeat Dr. Monty.
Who?
Number 5 comes from Nolan_55, who asked, never seen an answer for this. Is the Ricktophen we play as an Alpha Omega in the TerosOfCrete cutscene Great War Ricktophen from the Blood outro? Yes, it is. This is stated by both in-game quotes in Alpha Omega, secret dialogue on TerosOfCrete, and in the character bios in BO4, with there being 2 distinct entries specifically for Primus Ricktophen, one for the Blood of the Dead variant, and the Great War Ricktophen who we play as an Alpha Omega. The dialogue for the Great War Ricktophen states, unlike his younger Primus counterpart, Dr. Edward Ricktofen has been to the Great War and witnessed the truth of the paradox. With the destruction of the blood vials and the Chronorium in new hands, he hopes he and his allies will break the cycle once and for all. The next question comes from WerewolfGameDev, who asked, if the original characters had to die, with their souls too I guess, how does Eddie fit into it? Wouldn't he have the same soul and should be dead? His existence itself seems like a contradiction. Or maybe it's an out Treyarch left for themselves for the OG crew to return. Not a bad theory, and an excellent observation. During the events of TerosOfCrete, Nikolai managed to kill Dempsey and Takio's eternal souls when destroying the summoning key. His eternal soul by being murdered by Samantha Maxis, but Richtophens' eternal soul is a mystery. Eddie is a construct of Richtophens' soul bound to the Aether, and as the question implies, could be a narrative scapegoat and might one day be the explanation as to why the original 4 continue to exist and why corruption has never stayed too far away. Our next question comes from Ricktophens, who has 2 questions. The first asks us, was the boy Sam saw in the Dark Aether that she said was lost yet looked dangerous supposed to be Eddie or Samuel? I got the impression it was Eddie. Upon completing Black Ops 6, I can confidently deduce that this child was Eddie. For context, while trapped in quarantine Requiem HQ during Cold War after the events of Firebase C, Samantha hallucinates on figures from her past, and one figure she sees as a boy. I believe this boy to be Eddie. She sees him as lost and helpless, yet he appears dangerous. This is further backed up by Croft in BO6, who notes when he first adopted Ricktophen that he found the boy troubled in that he had frequent night terrors.
The boy is having nightmares again, the terrible things. He wakes drenched in sweat, screaming that it's his turn. He does not remember in the morning. I am beginning to wonder if he is actually taking the pills or if he is just lying to me. Either way, the boy needs a fresh start. Something to help him forget the things that haunt him.
As for Richtophens' second question, he asks, did the Dark Aether gods in Vanguard pretty much confirm that the Dark Aether timeline was existing alongside the Aether timeline the whole time instead of it being a brand new world after TOG's ending? That is correct. For context, the Dark Aether with Cortifex, the Construct, and other Dark Aether entities has always existed as its own realm outside of the original Aether storyline. But what makes it confusing is that the Aether storyline has its own Dark Aether. So within the Aether storyline, you have the Aether itself, which is a bubble that exists within the cycle. It's an energy that makes up the original COD Zombies universe. Within it, the Keepers create Agartha. With the existence of the Aether, also exists the Dark Aether, which is seemingly an antimatter dimension. This antimatter corrupts Keepers, making them Apothicons. Eventually, war wages with the Keepers coming out as victorious. Because of it, the Apothicons are banished to the Dark Aether, which is their antimatter dimension, and not the Dark Aether which exists Cortifex and so on. Earth acts as a medium by which Agartha can be accessed. Within this entire bubble exists the multiverse. But following the events of TerosOfCrete, the entire multiverse got crammed into one consistent world, and corrupted realms and energies like the Aether, the Dark Aether, and 115 all fell into the already existing realm known as the Dark Aether. This also shattered the barrier between them, allowing the two to cross over. This is backed up by Syraxis and Vanguard zombies, who makes note of the day things like Pack-a-Punch and perk machines began to seemingly show up out of nowhere. She claims that they're from our future, but I don't think what she realizes is that the game is implying they're not from the Cold War future, they're from the Aether future. This right here is the ending of TerosOfCrete spilling over into the Dark Aether, filling the already dangerous universe with an entire multiverse worth of artifacts and monsters. I know, confusing.
I don't know how many of your centuries ago it happened, but I remember when we first became aware of your world. Before that, we thought the Dark Aether was, well, everything. Then one day, strange items began to appear in my realm. I speak of things like that pack-a-punch device, and the box that spits out guns. They caused quite an uproar among my kind. How did they work? Where did they come from? And what kind of trouble could I stir up over there?
Question 8 comes from the Goat Pigpen. Going to stump you with your first episode. Is that Peter McCain in Shinonuma Reborn? Why did he die in the exact same way again? Also, as a bonus, why do Nova Crawlers teleport on the moon? To answer the first question, we need to review how the Elemental Shard works. As stated previously, the Elemental Shard bound the souls of Ricktophen, Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai to the Aether. With it, the Aether couldn't exist without them, so the Aether multiverse could only be destroyed when they were all killed. So when the Cold War universe was created, so was an exact copy of everyone who existed in the Aether universe, minus Ricktophen, ignoring Eddie, Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai. So a copy of Gregory Weaver was created, so was a copy of JFK, so was a copy of each of the Victus crew, and finally, so was Peter McCain, a US operative who tragically died while parachuting into the Rising Sun facility during World War II. It's as simple as that. He had the exact same fate in a very similar but different world. As for the bonus question, there's no answer. They just seem to do that on Moon, and most likely were experiments that the game never goes into. For number 9, we have TheRealPdGaming, who asked, what's Ava Jansen's role in the Dark Aether? Was she just a teaser for BO6 and Liberty Falls, or is she supposed to be an important character to the overall lore? Currently, Ava 100% feels like a tease for Liberty Falls, but seeing as a portion of the new Transit 2.0 map features the Reckoning spawn room, it's possible she could still appear. As for her relevance, Ava Jansen is the daughter of Samantha Maxis and Sergei Ravenov, with Elizabeth Grey being her surrogate mother. Ava possesses Dark Aether powers, and is seemingly an allegory for the god Janus, a Roman deity with two faces, with half of Ava existing in the real world and the other half existing in the Dark Aether as the entity, which was awoken in Ava during the initial events of MWZ. She seemingly has a large role to play in all of this, and will most likely be pivotal in stopping the Shadowsmiths in BO7 and beyond. Number 10 comes from ATotalDork and Occulta, with ATotalDork asking, from a meta-narrative perspective, what the hell is the story about? For the sake of simplicity, let's take the original Aether arc from Noct to Tog. What is the message of this overarching narrative? Is there any? I'll try to answer this question the best that I can, as the original run of Zombies has two distinct directors with two distinct visions on what the themes of the story are. But for simplicity, I'm defaulting on Blondel's run of the story as he actually had a story to tell. The story of Call of Duty Zombies is about the phenomenon of Call of Duty Zombies. The crux of the narrative is the existence of the fan-favorite characters, and Black Ops 3 and Tog's outro is literally about us letting go. It's about being okay with death. Nothing lives forever, and eventually we all have to make peace with the things that we hold on to and let them go. Only when we do can the story finally rest. And if it isn't allowed to, then you have what you have today. So make of that what you will. The story is also about the ever-encroaching human desire to live forever, and as much as it hurts, we have our brothers, we have our family around us, but one day, we all will go, and that's okay. To add on to this, what works really well about the ending of Tog is that you, the player, are walking Samantha and Eddie away from the original storyline. You are physically walking away and then letting go as they go on without you. Now granted, is the sentiment ruined with Cold War, BO6 and onward? Maybe, but we'll see what happens. It's up to you to decide how you feel about that.
Welcome to the party.
Oh my god, bro.
And then Occulta follows up this question by asking, if you can you describe the message of the whole Dark Aether storyline? I'd like to hear what you have to say on that. I'm going to specifically answer that question from the point of view of Cold War, because Vanguard, MWZ, and BO6 don't exactly have themes, just things that happen in them. Cold War is a story about the literal Cold War, and the conflicts the war created. The Cold War era is defined by how different it was to World War II. There are no easily defined good guys and bad guys. No side truly came out of the war with good intentions. Both sides intended to annihilate the other, and it was only good people who prevented that. Sam asks us this question when we first hear from her on D Machine. Do you really know who you're fighting for? The game's cast is made up of runaways, betrayers, loyalists, and snakes around each and every corner. William Peck is an American defector working for Omega, and Sergei Ravenov is a Russian defector looking to help Requiem. Edward Ricktofen pulled the strings from the beginning, and Kravchenko and Weaver both eventually faced the Blade for doing what they thought was right. In the end, there were no winners besides Ricktofen, who got rid of Samantha Maxis, prevented the Dark Aether from destroying the world, and captured the Forsaken. Everyone's hard work was used by an opportunist and a sadistic strategist who was willing to do just about anything and everything to get his wife and son back. In the end, Zykov was right, and war had only expanded and rooted itself deeper and deeper into human desires. That right there is the story of Cold War.
So right now, I'm looking at the big bad Russian boogeyman that we know as Omega. Then, on the other side, there's you. A CIA-backed department known as Requiem. You know much about them? Or do you just follow orders? I suspect the latter, and I thank you for your service. This isn't me ragging on your operation. God knows me and Weaver got a history and a whole lot in common. But there's always the question, the worry, of divided loyalties. Weaver's half Russian, I'm German. Who are you fighting in World War II? You sure you know who the enemy is now? This is a new landscape. None of this is what any of us are used to. I'm going to do my part while you do yours. I think there's a lot more to this than we know.
Number 11 comes from Scotty, who asked, Revelations and the House confuse me a lot, and the younger version of our characters. I always watch a video, then I think I get it, then I get confused again. As previously discussed, the children are the essence of the original 4 characters bound to the Aether. As long as they are collected and protected, Dr. Monty will continue to have omnipotence over the entire multiverse, and the cycle will continue. That is all Dr. Monty wants. Just like our characters, to live forever, and the cycle ensures that. Also complete control, but who cares about that? The essences are all collected at different times. Following Ricktofen collecting the Summoning Key in Shadows of Evil, he heads to Dimension 2210, where he collects his soul by killing a child version of himself. Then in the Giant, he kills his Ultimus counterpart. By killing this exact version of himself at this exact point in time, it causes the stability of the universe to fracture, creating the Giant and Horizon-Drock in the Despacito fracture, Setsuba no Shima in the Prototon fracture, and Gorai Krovi in the Agnoia fracture. Every time the universe is fractured, it causes greater and greater hellscapes. In Horizon-Drock, the moon is blown up, in Zetsubo, dragons are created, and in Gorai Krovi, the universe has been plunged into madness so badly that World War II has continued indefinitely. Robots and monsters roam the battlefields, and finally in Revelations, the universe is literally so fractured and broken, it creates all kinds of hellscapes. Anyways, the point being, the house resides in Agartha, and from there, Monty can monitor the situation with Ricktofen and ensure the cycle is perpetuated, which he always wants.
This doctor, he tells me one more thing. He tells me he realizes that Dr. Monty is not inherently evil. Dr. Monty, he says, is trying to save the multiverse the safest way he knows how. By forcing us into this cycle, our story will never end. But also, his universe and his existence will be guaranteed. I can't blame him, he says. Dr. Monty is much like you and me. He just wants to survive. He doesn't want to risk his own annihilation. I tell him, well, if we are doomed to meet here again and again until the end of existence, perhaps there is something we can do to change that. He looks at me with a smile and says, I think you are right, old friend.
For question 12, we have one from TerosOfCrete, who asks, do you remember how we figured out how Primus went to Alcatraz between Zetsubo and Gorod? Was it only during Black Ops 4 when we found out that? Definitely, because I vaguely recall the community knowing earlier on. There were a few hallmarkers that allowed us to deduce that our crew went to Alcatraz. Ricktofen has always worn blood vials with the numbers of 2 of the mobsters from Mob of the Dead always on his person, so we knew they had to come from Alcatraz, and after the events of Zetsubo no Shima, each of the remaining crew are wearing these blood vials as well in Gorod Krovi. To further add on to this, Dempsey makes a comment about the prison section in Mob of the Dead, where he knows not to ask about it. Those were the main ways we figured it out before the reveal of Blood of the Dead during Black Ops 4.
We still not talking about this, Ricktophen? Got it. Won't say a word.
Question 13 comes from FPSpsychoYT, who asks, is Ludwig Maxis officially dead after the events of Alpha Omega? Or did he somehow survive as a spiritual being, similar to how like 90% of COD Zombies characters somehow return years later? As far as the story is concerned, Dimension 63 Maxis is killed at the hands of Dr. Monty in Alpha Omega in the Broken Cycle. In the regular cycle, he and Sophia are killed sacrificing themselves, banishing the Apothecans from Agartha. And then as for the original Maxis in the original universe, he destroys Earth and all of its inhabitants on January 19th, 2036, trapping himself in that dimension's version of Agartha forever until Agartha is inevitably destroyed by Nikolai during Tag der Toten. So there's a slim possibility he could show up in the future, but who knows, most likely this plot point will never be referenced again. For number 14, we have a question from Schmidt76, who asks, is Victus also trapped in a cycle? And not the cycle like Primus where the timeline repeats, but their own cycle of death hinted at and buried in Die Rise. If so, are Ultimus Maxis and Ricktofen aware of this cycle? In the context of Die Rise and Buried, it most certainly seems like that's what they were setting up, with the Victus crew being raised over and over again to complete the whims of Maxis or Ricktofen, with the group having some special sauce that allows them to survive what should be immediate death. But upon Blundell's direction, that plotline was seemingly dropped, and at best, this cycle is rolled into the cycle the Primus crew are already experiencing. Maybe in Jimmy's mind, Ultimus Maxis and Ricktofen were aware of some kind of cycle, but under Blundell's direction, the only people aware of the cycle, as far as I'm aware, are Primus Ricktofen, Primus Nikolai, Monty, and the Shadow Man.
I don't understand. What are you talking about, Stuhlinger? Misty made it pretty clear.
Except for fate, begin anew.
We're going down. We're going down fighting. Ah!
Have we been here before?
And for our final question today, we have a big one, so stay with me here. Question number 15 comes from Spooky Sal, who asks, okay, literally what happened after Primus entered the light in Origins? Because the transition between the events of BO2 to 3 seems so muddied aside from how Ricktofen received the Chronorium. Let's break the timeline down starting at Moon. During the events of Moon, Ricktofen and Samantha Maxis swap bodies, allowing Ricktofen to gain full control of the Aether and the ability to manipulate all matter and control the world. Maxis prevents this by destroying Earth, severing Richttofen's connection to the Aether because, as shown in Tag der Toten, the Earth resides in the realm of creation, and without it, the connection to Agartha and the Aether is severed. During the events of Transit, Die Rise, and Buried, the Victus crew ultimately side with Maxis, mending the rift using the polarization devices, and once he gains full control of the Aether, he goes insane, and Samantha is teleported to Agartha to reunite with him. She gets scared and immediately runs away to Dimension 63, where she reaches out to another version of her father, which is why we hear her pleading during the events of Origins. After completing the egg, she is freed from Agartha, and is brought to the house where the Dimension 63 version of Maxis is given a body. During that time, Ricktofen splits away from Primus, being given his own tasks and mentoring by both Monty and the Shadow Man. Samantha is currently corrupted by the Aether, and Monty takes her away to purify her. During his isolation, Maxis discovers Zero Earth, the Chronorium, and the Summoning Key. When Monty returns, Samantha is purified. Ricktofen is given his quest to retrieve the Chronorium, and they are told that they can fix the universe by collecting the souls of those who survived the fracturing, which is the essence of our original 4 characters bound to the Aether. From there, Ricktofen enlists the help of the Victus crew to recover the Chronorium. With the Chronorium, he collects and locates the Summoning Key from Shadows of Evil in Dimension 63. From there, he kills his younger self in Dimension 2210. Eddie is then transported to the house where he meets Samantha. This is then when the Origins outro cutscene takes place, as she is recounting the tale of Origins to Eddie. Then from there, Ricktofen continues his quest and heads to the Giant, where he reconvenes with the other three, and the main plot of BO3 begins. I hope that made sense, because most of this information is given to us in the Zombies timeline, and it's difficult to put all the pieces together as it requires you to play through Moon, Transit, Die Rise, Buried, the Maxis Endgame, the Victus Comics, Shadows of Evil, the Giant, and read the Zombies timeline. Quite a doozy, right? All of this information can be found in said timeline if you need a refresher, by the way.
Only a fool would dare to change history.
I am no fool. What I do only to secure a better tomorrow.
Yeah, well, let's see if we live to see it.
And those are 15 questions answered about the COD Zombie storyline. This series gets more and more convoluted by the year, so I hope you learned a thing or two from all of my explanations. Thank you to everyone who submitted their questions. If you have any of your own, or thoughts about what you heard today, then leave them in the comments section below. I would love to hear what you have to say. But with that said, thank you all so much for watching. And remember, keep on slaying.